Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Magic Avatar the Gathering video. In this one I'm going to be going over the green cards. So we've already gone over all the other colors. Next up after this will be the multicolor stuff, the lands and the last few cards. So yeah, I'm just going to jump kind of straight in here with the first green card. So Allies at Last is 3 mana for an uncommon instant, affinities for allies. Up to 2 target creatures you control, each deal damage equal to their power to target creature an opponent controls. So it's a kind of kill a creature spell for green, which usually does that via its creatures. So 2 of your creatures taking out something your opponent controls, that's nice. And it has affinity for allies. So if you have multiple allies, you can lower the cost down by 1 or 2. So yeah, this can cost 3, 2, or 1. You can never get rid of the final green mana because it's not generic. The reduction is only by a generic. But yeah, cool card depicting, of course, Zuko and Katara's field trip, the Southern Raiders. And a kind of cool way to show them working together and how powerful they are. Next is one of my favorite cards in the entire set. I love the effect, both just from a mechanical point of view. I love the art on this and the alternate art version of it. And the flavor of the mechanics is just top notch. Like, best designed card in the set, maybe just from that kind of flavor perspective. But anyway, Avatar Destiny. 4 mana, so 2 green for an enchantment aura. It is a rare. Enchant creature you control. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your graveyard and is an avatar in addition to its other types. When enchanted creature dies, mill cards equal to its power. Return this card to its owner's hand and up to 1 creature card milled this way to the battlefield under your control. So, what is this card doing? It is showing you the avatar cycle as a card. The creature you enchant becomes the avatar, kind of in the avatar state to a certain degree. They are empowered by the past avatars. That they are the +1/+1 counters for the creatures in your graveyard. The past avatars boosting up the present avatar. Then, when the creature that is the avatar dies, the cycle continues. You mill cards from your deck equal to its power. So it's probably at this point in the game going to be at least, I don't know, 4 or 5. So those cards get milled. You then get to return the card Avatar Destiny to your hand so you can use it again, so you can make something the next avatar. And then of course, one of the creatures that you milled gets to be put onto the battlefield under your control, and the intent, I suppose, of the card is that you theoretically make that card the avatar, though you don't have to choose that one. But yeah, love everything about this one. Is it super strong? I don't know if it's crazy strong, but I think it's actually like quite good. Just the kind of reanimation in a way in green to bring something back. And yeah, the alternate art is fantastic as well. Kind of notable as well because I think it's one of our only appearances of Avatar Zito just here after Yang Chen in the set. And I always love to see avatars lined up like this. This alternate art is a battle pose card. Not a neon ink battle pose, just a normal battle pose. So you can get this in play boosters, but it's not very regular, obviously. It's one of the rarer things you can get from play boosters. It's going to look really nice in foil, I think, as well. Next up is the Badger Mole. So 5 mana for a 4/4 common Badger Mole. When it enters Earthbend 2, creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. So what Earthbending does, just because I think this is the first time in the video we're covering this. So Earthbend is target land you control becomes a 0/0 creature with haste. It is still a land, and you put, in this case, 2 +1/+1 counters on it, and then when that creature dies or is exiled, return it to the battlefield tapped. Obviously, if it's Earthbend 1, it is only 1 +1/+1 counter, but the significance of Earthbend is it turns your lands into land creatures and allows them to immediately attack because they have haste. You want to attack with them because you won't lose your lands in combat because the land will come back tapped. When it is a land creature, you can still tap that creature for the mana that it already is because it still is a land at heart. So it remains kind of multi-use. It's just they are now also a creature as well. And yeah, creatures you control with +1/+1 counters on them have trample. So the idea is, in this case, that typically means stuff that's been earthbent. But in this case, it doesn't specify that it has to be lands with +1/+1 counters. It's creatures. So it can be counters from anywhere to give trample, meaning the damage, if you deal excess damage, it comes off your opponent's life. Pretty nice. There's a lot of cards that just give you earthbending. I'm interested to see how, you fill your deck with a bunch of stuff that earthbends 2, 3, a couple of 4s. How many earthbend creatures are you going to get, and how good are they? How awkward or not is it to use them? Because when you obviously attack with an earthbend thing, unless it has vigilance, you are tapping your land, not for mana. So you kind of need to account for that as well. Now, there does seem to be a decent amount of ramp in the set that is kind of gaining more lands and kind of mana than you usually would, but we'll see what happens. Next up is the Badger Mole Cub. 2 mana for a 2/2 Badger Mole. It is a mythic rare. So interesting that they made the smaller Badger Mole, the baby Badger Mole, the mythic rare. But I think it makes sense for what this creature is trying to do, that it is a little bit smaller. So yeah, when this creature enters Earthbend 1, the adult Earthbends 2, so that's nice. Whenever you tap a creature for mana, add an additional green mana. And again, creature for mana, what's going on there? One of your lands that has been earthbent can still tap for mana, so it gives you an extra green as well. Even if you've earthbent an island, that island taps for the blue that it already is, but now you get an additional green. So very nice, giving you extra mana to assist, I think, as well, with the idea of, like, you might want to attack with your earthbend creatures as well. So nice. This looks to be one of the more expensive cards in the set, at least from the standard set. Like, it's this and Wan Shi Tong is actually, I think, going to be probably the most expensive mythic rare from the set. And of course, the alternate art, the field note version of Badger Mole Cub is going to be, I think, it's quite expensive as well. So cool card, always cool to see the baby animals, and just interesting that they made the decision to make one of the more notable cards in the set the Badger Mole Cub. So that's very cool. Next is the Boulder, Ready to Rumble. 3 and a green for a human warrior performer, legendary creature. It's a 4/4. When the Boulder attacks, earthbend X, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 4 or greater. It includes himself, so it at least is earthbend 1. But then, of course, if you have other stuff on the field, it could be 2, it could be 3. And then note that earthbending also facilitates this card because you can continue to stack earthbendings on the same land to gradually make it bigger, because it's fundamentally just giving them +1/+1 counters. So you might eventually get some of your lands up to being 4/4 creatures as well, which will enhance the Boulder. And then by the time you have it at like earthbend 4, suddenly he's putting more power 4 or greater creatures onto the field. It's a cool card that you can kind of build into here. It's a bit of a theme for some of the green and red kind of earthbending focused cards. So I actually like that the Boulder has a pretty nice card, actually. Boomy, King of 3 Trials. 6 mana for a 4/4 legendary creature, human noble ally. When Boomy enters, choose up to X, where X is the number of lesson cards in your graveyard. The 3 options are put 3 +1/+1 counters on Boomy, target player scries 3, and earthbend 3. So all the effects relate to 3 trials. That's nice. Note, even if you have, say, 4, 5, or 6 lesson cards in your graveyard, you can only do the 3 effects like individually once. You don't get to choose one effect multiple times or anything like that. It's just, it happens 3 times. That's for each of the individual effects. So that's how it works. It's kind of nice, it'll eventually makes Boomy like a 7/7. Scry 3 is nice to get a little bit deeper into your deck, and you make something else a 3/3. So it's actually a lot of power if you manage to get it kind of fully going with all the lessons. But I do think the Mythic Rare Boomy is a better card, which we'll get to in multicolor. Next is the lesson card, Cycle of Renewal. So 3 mana for an instant. Sacrifice a land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Nice card, love the flavor of this moment. Heybai's Forest burned down. The lesson of the idea that because of that like acorn, it can grow back better potentially than it was before. So yeah, you sacrifice a land to get 2 lands later. You just have to lose a little bit of time and stuff like that. But because it's an instant, you can wait until like right at the end of your turn, do all the stuff that you want, then sacrifice a land, then do it, or do it during your opponent's turn is a really nice way to do it. Actually somewhat efficient for what it's trying to do. Mana ramp, that's very, very cool. Next, Diligent Zookeeper, 4 mana for a 4/4 human citizen ally. It's a rare. Each non-human creature you control gets +1/+1 for each of its creature types to a maximum of 10. So creature types, like for instance, Diligent Zookeeper, his creature types are human, citizen, and ally. So he will boost stuff that doesn't have human by the creature types. So the idea here is that if you play a hybrid animal deck using a lot of the animal cards, at the very least, they're all getting 2 +1/+1 counters because most of them are hybrid animals. Some of them might have more lines in the text box. Like, remember, there's that one that's like bird, ox, and so on. There's like 4 of them in it. So that's a card you probably want to play in this deck. To a maximum of 10, I guess there is some weird thing probably with the changeling mechanic just in broader Magic Constructed that might allow this to kind of maybe get out of hand and potentially give you like a, I don't know, like infinite, or like it makes the creature like hundreds of creature types, because changelings are like all creature types basically. I'm guessing that's what it's trying to avoid, because I don't think there's any card in the set that really like adds tons of creature types up to 10, past 10 onto anything. So I'm not sure what that's overly getting at. Not sure exactly what deck maybe this is kind of trying to maybe lean into here. Is the hybrid animal deck possible, especially when it's just boosting power like this? I'm not really sure, but we'll see. This has a alternate rare, a field note card, which is actually cool for like the Zookeeper. It covers a bunch of different animals. That's nice. Next is the Earth King, so 4 mana for a 2/2 human noble ally. It's a rare, legendary. When Quay enters, create a 4/4 green bear creature token. So he brings Bosco with him. So you end up getting 6/6 worth of stats across 2 creatures here. Then, whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power 4 or greater attacks, search your library for up to that many basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield tapped. Shuffle. So that's nice. So at the very least, the idea is you get Bosco attacking to get a land from your deck onto the battlefield tapped. And then if you do have a bunch of big things, like Quay is getting a lot of lands out of your deck, you could get this to the point where you have most of your lands on the battlefield, which is kind of cool. I like it. I typically like the way green operates, so I tend to like a lot of what this is doing. This one has an elemental frame card, which I think the art on this is very, very nice. I hope I get this card. So yeah, that's that. Then Earth Kingdom General, 4 mana for a 2/2 human soldier ally. When this creature enters, Earthbend 2. So there's a lot of earthbending going on here. That's nice. Whenever you put 1 or more +1/+1 counters on a creature, you may gain that much life. Do this only once each turn. So that's cool. He facilitates you gaining life for earthbending happening. That's great. And again, I guess you have to time it maybe later to get the most value out of this, of like, okay, my Earthbend 4, so I get 4 life rather than Earthbend 1 to get 1 life. That's the idea. But cool card, leans into the idea that it works with Earthbending, but it also works with just stuff that creates counters in general. Earthbending is the most obvious way to do that in green, but nice. Earth Rumble is 4 mana for a sorcery. Earthbend 2, when you do up to 1 target creature you control fights target creature an opponent controls. So that's one of the obvious ways to get rid of creatures in green, is to have your creature fight it. So that's nice. And then the Earthbend 2 on top of that is kind of nice. Especially if you maybe are earthbending up an already big earthbend creature to fight. That actually is kind of cool. Next up, Earthbender Ascension. So this is the last of the Ascension cards that we've seen. 3 mana for an enchantment. It is a rare. When it enters, you Earthbend 2. So we're seeing that quite a lot, Earthbend 2. Search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then it has landfall. So whenever a land you control enters, put a quest counter on this enchantment. When you do this, if it has 4 or more, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and it gains trample. So you keep the lands kind of going, you get it up to 4, and then this starts to generate counters when you play your lands and give something trample. That can definitely build up overall, I think, especially if you are getting a bunch of like 4+ power creatures like the deck kind of seems to want to do. That's, I think, pretty nice. All of the Ascension cards seem nice, and if you do lean into the bending disciplines quite a lot, they're cool cards to like, oh yeah, I'll just do a lot of earthbending, I guess. That's kind of cool. This card does have an alternate art. It's from the 9-card scene for book 3. You can see here it's the top left corner here. It's definitely one of those weird ones where the card on its own doesn't really look maybe super amazing, because it is just meant to be a kind of supplementary piece of the art at the top, rather than a focus of like, this is earthbending at its maximum type thing. But still, the scene is very, very nice. Next up, we have Earthbending Lesson. So we also have the last lesson here. So 4 mana for a sorcery lesson, Earthbend 4. That's all it does. That's nice. That's a big chunk of earthbending. And then also, notably with Earthbend 4, for the stuff that cares about power 4 or greater, well, you've just created something power 4 or greater. That's cool. Next, Earthen Ally. 1 green mana for a human soldier ally. It's a rare. It's a 0/2, and it gets +1/+0 for each other color among allies you control. For each color among allies you control. Okay, so when he comes in, he is a 1/2 because he's green, and he is an ally. So he wants you to play him with other allies, and then he wants to pay 2 and 1 of each color. So 2 and Wooburg to get you Earthbend 5, which is a big number of Earthbending. That's a big creature. That can happen every turn, of course. If you have the mana, actually, you could do that multiple times in a turn, which would be kind of crazy, but that's that. This one definitely depends on you having the ability to pay that cost, because I think the intent here is not that you're necessarily playing a full 5-color deck, but probably maybe 2 or 3 colors, and then you have a way to kind of fudge the last 2. We'll see the creature that I think is meant to do that coming up kind of shortly, but a very interesting card that I wonder how well it actually is going to work. Because in, say, like a standard, like limited, maybe 2-color deck, the idea is like, okay, it's a 1 mana 2/2 if you're playing, say, white-green, and then it just has an effect that probably you can't make happen. Maybe you play something like, I don't know, energy bending in your deck or something like that, and 1 turn you can make this happen late in the game. It's kind of cool. He has an extended art which you can only get in collector boosters, so just note that. Next is Elemental Teachings, 5 mana for an instant lesson. Search your library for up to 4 land cards with different names and reveal them. An opponent chooses 2 of those cards, put the rest into the graveyard and the rest onto the battlefield taps. So yeah, your opponent basically gives you the 2, I suppose, worst of the 4 that you chose, and you do get them though they are tapped. It's nice. It gets 4 lands out of your library. That is good. It is also a way to, I suppose, facilitate the previous card here. So if you are playing a super multicolor deck, well, yeah, you get 4 different colors. Admittedly, your opponent's never going to probably give you the other open colors, but still, it gets you land. And this card also has an extended art. Next up, Flopsy, Boomy's Buddy. 4 green for a 4/4 legendary creature ape goat. When Flopsy enters, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Each creature you control with power 4 or greater can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. Okay, so he is power 4 or greater, so he can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. That is not Menace. Menace means it has to be blocked by 2. This means it can only be blocked by 1, basically. Which is another kind of cool way to, especially with big creatures, like your opponent's going to have to sacrifice their their creatures in the blocks, basically, is sort of the idea here. But yeah, he enters, he boosts everyone by +1/+1, and there are cards that care about that, of course. This is a nice card here at Uncommon. It's an ape goat. Technically, it's a gorilla goat, is the name in Avatar for Flopsy. Next up, Foggy Swamp Vinebender. So this is Hue. 3 and green for a human plant ally. It's a 4/3. Can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so it can't be blocked by low power creatures. Waterbend 5, it's interesting in green. Put a +1/+1 counter on this creature, and you can only do this during your turn. It's a somewhat high cost, but it does boost it up to a pretty nice number. It's already a 4/3, that would make it a 5/4. And that's getting into pretty big territory. Waterbend is interesting in the context of earthbending, because if you pay for a cost with like a land creature, it almost doesn't really matter, because the land creature can already tap for mana, regardless of the whole waterbend creatures to pay for stuff. So it's just interesting. But anyway, we move on. Here's the creature I was referencing before. Great Divide Guide. 2 mana for a 2/3 human scout ally. It's a rare. Each land and ally you control has tap, add 1 mana of any color. So this is how you facilitate that, what's his name again? The Earthen Ally, with his multicolor activated ability. Is that you don't have to play all the different lands. Instead, you can just play this guy in maybe a 2 or 3 color deck, and just, you know, eventually, just when you need the last 2 colors, pay for it using him. Because this is a pretty wide-ranging ability. Like, every land and every ally you control has tap for any mana of any color. He just by being on the field fixes your mana to being all the colors. That's very nice, very useful. And it's really interesting that they gave a pretty powerful effect to one of the notable characters from the episode everyone considers to be the worst episode of ATLA. So it's just cool that he actually has a pretty good card and a very nice alternate art. So he gets an elemental frame card here. I actually think this is really, really nice art here by Shane Beresford. I actually want to own this card, definitely. So I like the effect. I like all the art. Very nice. Next, Haru Hidden Talent, 2 mana for a 1/1, legendary creature, human peasant ally. Whenever another ally you control enters, earthbend 1. Yeah, I like this. This sort of stuff where it's just, yeah, you make something happen that your deck is doing, and it makes earthbending happen. Very, very cool. Because, yeah, if you're, this is, I suppose, leaning into, I suppose, mainly like white, green primarily, maybe a little bit of red, green as well. But yeah, you make allies come onto the field. A lot of your creatures in general will be allies. But then remember, like, especially in like white, there was a few creatures that come onto the field and immediately create an ally token. That would be 2 triggers of Haru, giving you 2 more creatures, or you can earthbend the same thing to try and make it bigger. I really like this. You can build around this and kind of go wide a little bit here. It's cool. The only weakness of this creature is just that it does only have 1 toughness, but if you can boost him up or equip him with something, protect him in some way, it's definitely something to kind of build around quite early on in the game. So again, I like that. The Canyon Guide got a good card. Haru gets a good card. Nice stuff. Next up, Invasion Tactics is 4 and a green for an enchantment. When it enters, you give your creatures +2/+2 until end of turn. And then every turn, basically, when 1 or more allies you control deals damage to a player, draw a card. That's nice. And the wording on that is done in such a way where it just means that, like, every single one of your allies doesn't draw you a card. It's just, if you get through with a ally, you draw a card. That's just the idea about it. So it's not going to get you tons of cards, but like one a turn would be nice overall. And then the +2/+2 just helps you get through maybe that first turn, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's Invasion Tactics. A little comment on the art here is just that there is a little bit of inconsistency with the character outfits here. It's obviously meant to be the planning for the Day of Black Sun invasion, so Aang is wearing the right clothes here. He's wearing his Book 3 outfit, but Sokka and Katara are still wearing their early series outfit when this should be sort of the debut of their Book 3 outfits for the end of the series, basically. So a little bit of inconsistency there. I don't have too much of a problem with it from the kind of magic point of view, just because even Avatar Studios themselves with their own art sometimes makes this mistake and is inconsistent with the season outfits overall. Next up is Kyoshi Island Plaza, which is 4 mana for the green shrine. This one is all about searching your library for basic land cards. So you get X for the number of shrines. So if you just play it on its own, you get 1 because there's 1 shrine. But then every time another shrine comes in, you get to search for a basic land card as well. So the idea is if you end up doing all the shrines, it's a kind of cool trigger of like, you get a basic land, you get a +1/+1 counter, you do all the things the different colors are doing. I'd like to see it kind of go off. One of the Jumpstart decks with Heibai, I think, has these 5 shrines in it, which I hope I do get that pack. But that is, yeah, Kyoshi Island Plaza. Relatively nice, but I don't think the shrines are maybe overly for limited, I think, but we'll see. Leaves from the Vine, 2 mana for an enchantment saga. 1. Mill 3 cards, then create a food token. 2. Put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures you control. And then 3. Draw a card if there's a creature or lesson card in your graveyard. So yeah, a bit of milling here is interesting. Does any of the green stuff overly care about that? I'm not sure, maybe it's more of a green-black thing, but the card maybe theming isn't maybe in that direction, but we'll see. Put a +1/+1 counter on 2 target creatures, so yeah, that's kind of classic. It's referring to Iroh and Luten, so 2. And then Luten, who died, you know, draw a card if there is a creature or lesson in your graveyard. That's nice. That should be the case by the time you get here. So it's doing a little bit of everything. It's more of a story card than I think maybe super crazy, you know, mechanically, like, yeah, this is doing everything I want. It's just a bunch of random stuff that is broadly good. And flavor-wise, story-wise, it's a really nice moment from the show. Next up, we have The Legend of Kyoshi. So yeah, we're finally here at the last of the past avatars here with The Legend of Kyoshi. So this is 4 green. For the first phase of this, it's a mythic rare, is draw cards equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So by the time you have up to 6 mana, like, you hopefully at least have maybe something with power 4 on the board. That seems to be what your deck probably wants to do. That's a big card draw. Then Earthbend X, where X is the number of cards in your hand. That land becomes an island in addition to its other types. So again, you probably have a few cards from the previous turn, so you will be probably at least earthbending 3 or 4 or maybe more. You're making something big, and then the line of it becomes an island in addition to its other types is mostly, I think, there for flavor, because of course Kyoshi used her earthbending to create Kyoshi Island, separating it from the mainland. She created an island. That's the idea here. But functionally, it does allow that land to also now tap for blue, which is there if you want it, I suppose. Cool if you are maybe playing a green-blue deck, which could be kind of cool. But anyway, and then the third one, of course, is exiling it and then transforming it into Avatar Kyoshi, a 5/4 legendary creature avatar. Lands you control have trample and hexproof, so they do kind of overflow damage, and hexproof means they can't be targeted by things. That's nice. Protection for your earth creatures is cool. And then she also has tap, add X mana of any one color, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. So she just then becomes a bit of a mana creature here as well, where if she is the most powerful creature, she's adding 5. That's good. It's a lot of mana, and then if you just have anything to work with that's really kind of doing exactly what you want. Because again, she's already on the previous side of the card, drawing you a bunch of cards. So this is maybe one of the better sagas overall, which is nice. And then yeah, this one also has one of these really, really nice, beautiful, borderless alternate arts here, both sides. Yeah, this one looks absolutely fantastic. There's the front side and there is the back side. So eager to get this group of 5 cards. So yeah, Roku, Kyoshi, Kurok, Yangchen, and the Sozin card as well is the one for black. Super cool. But we'll move on. Origin of Metal Bending is 2 mana for an instant lesson. Choose one. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. So there's the kind of metal bending aspect primarily. But then also put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. It gains indestructible until end of turn. So they're both basically metal bending. It's just the idea of she can break through metal with her metal bending. But she can also now actively metal bend herself. And that makes her, you know, her earth bending more durable because she's not just bending earth, she's bending metal. Very cool on flavor. And again, it's one of these kind of mode cards where, yeah, sometimes you need an artifact enchantment removal, but otherwise, yeah, sometimes the +1/+1 counter is nice. And an indestructible as well on an instant is nice to just save something when required. So really cool, flexible card. Next is the Ostrich Horse. So it's 3 mana for a 3/1 common bird horse. When this creature enters mill 3 cards, you may put a land card from among them into your hand. If you don't, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. So yeah, another way to get a land into your hand. And then if you can't do that, or if you don't, or you may. So even if you mill a land, you don't have to take it. You could choose basically the +1/+1 counter instead to make it a 4/2. Yeah, again, another flexible card there. If you really want to guarantee your lands, that is certainly one way to do it. So that's nice. Ostrich Horse. Next is Pillar Launch. So it's 1 green mana for an instant. A target creature gets +2/+2 and gains reach until end of turn. So yeah, this is nice. Way for green to, I suppose, counter flyers, because we haven't seen any green flyers, and I don't think we've seen reach a ton so far. So yeah, this is a way for you to deal with that, which is something green I think does typically need to do. But also untap it as well. So the idea, I think, primarily with this card would be that, hey, I'm going to use one of my Earthbend creatures, but I want to tap it for mana first. So now I'll instant use this card on it. Now I get to untap it and, you know, go into combat with it and you know, do the fun stuff where it's even more powerful and it can block something with flying. That's kind of cool. Like, you reactivate something to take out something in the sky. Again, fun and flavorful. Next is Raucous Audience. So 2 mana for a 2/1 human citizen. It's a common. Tap, add green. If you control a creature with power 4 or greater, add 2 green instead. So there is your creature that can tap for green. And yeah, you want this in a green deck. This is really early ramp on turn 2 to have an extra green source. Very cool. And then, yeah, if you get the big thing on board, you get another mana again. So it's that idea of, yeah, just something that grows over the course of the game. And it is something you kind of do want to do. So that's cool. Next is Rebellious Captives. 2 mana for a 2/2 human peasant ally. It has Exhaust 6. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on this creature, then Earthbend 2. So yeah, that's kind of cool. It's already got 2/2. The Exhaust ability gets kind of 4 more power onto the board. And yeah, Haru got a legendary creature before. This is, I suppose, in essence, maybe meant to be the Tyro card, because I don't think he gets his own individual card. But yeah, this is kind of nice. It would have been maybe cool if they maybe designed an ability that fit the whole idea of them coal bending here a little bit more. But, you know, as a basic card, I think it fits for green, of course. Next is Rockalanche. 3 for a sorcery lesson, uncommon. Earthbend X, where X is the number of forests you control. So yeah, we've had one of these for each of the different colors, where it depends on the number of that mana type's color. So yeah, you get to go, so you're on 3, it probably is 3, but it could be more later on in the game. Yeah, so you could do some big earthbending here with this, and it also has flashback for 6, so you get to play it again later on in the game. So yeah, do maybe a little bit of earthbending early on, and then bigger later on. That's cool, because it's always there. Like, the second you cast it, it's there in the graveyard for use later on when you have a bit more mana, so that's nice. Rocky Rebuke is 2 mana for an instant. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature an opponent controls. So yeah, it's the kind of the safer fight type thing of just dealing your damage kind of directly. It's a green sort of like kill spell. You might need this just to deal with stuff in green. Because they're, you know, each of the colors have their own kind of weakness to a certain degree. Some of them don't really have access to card draw. Some of them don't have flyers in particular, that sort of idea. Sabertooth Moose Line is a 6 mana 7/7 elk cat with reach, and this is your forest cycler. So if you want to get rid of this early on to get a forest, you can do that. But yeah, this is reach, something big. You might just need to play that in case you go up against, for instance, the white-blue flying deck. Especially if you're maybe like mono green, you might not be able to deal with stuff in the air too well. But anyway, next is Seismic Sense, which is 1 green mana for a sorcery lesson. Look at the top X cards of your library, where X is the number of lands you control. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, okay, you top of your library based on the number of lands you control. Yeah, that makes sense. That's sort of like the amount of power you have. So yeah, Seismic Sense is a quite powerful ability. You search deeper, you sense deeper, and you get a creature or land. That's kind of thematic as well, because it's what green wants to do. Earthbending is all about lands, so yeah, you can get that. Yeah, on flavor, basic card, and especially for 1 mana, like it's always usable, which is cool. Next, Shared Roots, 2 mana for a uncommon sorcery lesson. Search your library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Just, yeah, exactly kind of what you want to do in green is just get those lands onto the field as soon as possible, build up to your big creatures, and then get them into play as soon as possible. And yeah, cool moment here, the Banyan Grove tree, of course. This makes sense as the way to also get a land straight into play. And it's a lesson if anything else cares about that. Next is Sparring Dummy, 2 mana for a 1/3 artifact creature Scarecrow that has uncommon. It's got Defender, so it can't attack. You can tap it to mill a card. You may put a land card milled this way into your hand. You gain 2 life if a lesson card is milled this way. Okay, so it's just a kind of tap, mill, Defender, and you get lands into your hand, or life for lessons. Interesting. This is actually quite interesting, yeah. I guess you probably only really want to maybe play it if you do have a bunch of lessons, but just a 1/3 Defender, maybe. Interesting one. Next, Toph the Blind Bandit. So we've been waiting for this for a while. So 3 mana for a star 3. Legendary creature, human warrior ally. When Toph enters, Earthbend 2. Very nice. We've seen that a lot across green. Toph's power is equal to the number of +1/+1 counters on lands you control. So her power is based on how much earthbending effectively you have done, but you can get the counters on in other ways is the idea. So straight away she comes in, she earthbends 2, so she's a 2/3 at least, but she could be relatively high because a lot of it is earthbend 2. So, you know, she could easily come in as like a 4/3 or a 6/3 if you've already done a bit of earthbending prior to her coming on board. It's a nice basic Toph, which makes sense for the Blind Bandit version of her, which is effectively like her introduction. So, very nice stuff there. Next is True Ancestry. 2 mana for a sorcery lesson. Return up to 1 target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand and create a clue token. So this is nice as well, getting something out of your graveyard. Here's, I suppose, maybe where some of that mill stuff kind of comes into play. This is why a few of those cards are talking about milling, is that, oh yeah, and then you use this to get the thing you milled into your hand. And then the clue token here in green is a source of card draw, which we haven't maybe seen a ton of so far, but that is there if you need it. So useful, and actually a green card that might actually be quite needed. And also I love that they did a card for this moment, like one of the bigger revelations in like the entire series, the idea that like Zuko is related of course to Sozin, like the evil line of Fire Lords, but that he is also related to Avatar Roku as well. So huge moment for Zuko there. Next up is the Turtle Duck. 1 green for a 0/4 turtle bird, 3 mana. Until end of turn, this creature has base power 4 and gains trample. And again, you note the theme across the set. The reason it gains 4 is so now it is one of those power 4 or greater cards that helps make the other stuff work. You know, the Zookeeper boosts it by 2 if you have the Zookeeper on the board, because it's also one of those animals. It's a non-human. You know, you can see how it's all coming together. Next, Unlucky Cabbage Merchant. 2 mana for a 2/2 human citizen creature. This is not a legendary creature, so you can't use this one as your commander. You can use the one that's in Jumpstart as your commander. That is legendary. But this one says, when this creature enters, create a food token, which again is 2 tap, sacrifice, and you gain 3 life. Whenever you sacrifice a food, so when you use the effect of a food token, you may search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you search your library this way, put this creature on the bottom of its owner's library, then shuffle. So that's cool. So yeah, you get the it gives you an extra benefit for using the effect of the food token, ramping you, and then you put this creature back into the library, so you can maybe draw it again later to again do the same thing. Food is not a huge focus across the set. There really is only a handful of cards that relate to it. This is more of like if you wanted to build into this kind of like elsewhere. I think there are some fun interactions. I think the way that this works is that like if you do activate like a bunch of food tokens, you can kind of work it so that you do get multiple basic lands at the same time, but you still only shuffle the Cabbage Merchant in once. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's how the timing on something like that works. And then the last card in green is Walltop Sentries. 3 mana for a 2/3 human soldier ally. It's a common. Reach, okay, cool, and Death Touch. Very nice. So actually, this is definitely getting to where you want it. When this creature dies, if there's a lesson card in your graveyard, you gain 2 life. So the last line is just kind of like a little bonus there, a little bit of life gain. But Reach and Death Touch on a 2/3, that's nice, and that actually is something that you probably do want in the green deck, is just to threaten flyers, potentially big flyers. I think that's actually pretty good. And these are the people defending Bossing Say, so very nice overall. And yeah, like firebending, I am very interested to see how earthbending works in practice. So with firebending, the thing was sort of like how often will I be attacking to generate the mana? And in this case, it feels like, how often will I be attacking with my lands versus just using them as lands? How many of them will I regularly get on the board if I build into it? And then will I get slowed down by the creature dying? I don't lose the land, but it comes back tapped. I think there's some cool stuff here overall with the making big creatures, which I always like to do. And again, this is not the full scope of green. It's not really the full scope of any of the colors so far, because we still have a lot of the hybrid cards and the double color cards, which very much lean into the core strategies that we have to cover as well. And those could really link in with some of the monocolor cards to make them much more powerful. But yeah, green I'm quite liking. So yeah, the colors I'm probably like leaning towards the most, I would say, from just going through the monocolor stuff, is like I say white, green, and red are like the ones that I really, really like. Then probably blue, then black. Though I will say, I like what all the colors are doing to a certain degree. It looks like there's some interesting stuff in all of them. It's just, as someone who's played Magic for a while, I have my preference for styles of play that I do like. So that is cool. But yeah, that's been the green cards, and we'll be back with some of the big hitters with the multicolored cards next time out. I'm going to do them in a kind of slightly different order, more focused on sort of like the archetypes, the specific color combinations, but you'll see what I'm doing next time out. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on green, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.